middle of nowhere. We are in the middle of nowhere, isn't it? Not like exactly. Brother Saeed, come on. You're agreeing with me. Yeah. Imagine if your great-grandfather or great-grandmother would have never come to here. That's why, brothers and sisters, we have always to be hopeful. Why? Because in those days they thought, you know what, we are slaves, we're tortured, we're coming to this place, and people were coming as workers. Sometimes they had to run away because of poverty conditions, because of loads of reasons. They came here. Allah made an opening in this land. So Allah shows from the middle of darkness light. But in those days they wouldn't have thought this. That shows us that when we see tribulations, we should not just be pessimistic. We should know. Fiqh al-tahawulat teaches us that what will happen could be better. And then that was followed by what we call communism. Communism became very prominent in the world. It started in 1917 with the revolution, Stalin, Marx, but it took time until it came to many Muslim countries. India, Indonesia, Egypt, Libya, loads of countries became communist. In fact, some influential Muslim countries, Arab countries, they became communist pretty much at the same time. Egypt, Iraq, Yemen, Libya, and Syria. These 5 countries. It's very interesting, brothers and sisters. It's very interesting to look at it, because it is these same 5 countries that had been hit the most by the Arab Spring 60 years later. It's worth thinking about it. Seeing how we as people are attracted to any idea. In 1950, communism. And in those days, some thinkers, unfortunately some Muslim thinkers, tried to say that Islam is a communist religion. Ahmad Shawqi, who was one of the famous poets in the Arab world, he was the poet laureate. You know what did he write, Maulana? He wrote a long qasida called Nahjul Burda, following the Burda, in which he says about the Prophet ﷺ, Al-ishtirakiyuna anta imamuhum. You are the imam of the communists. Calling the Prophet ﷺ the imam of communists. It is sung by Kulthum. It is sung by Kulthum, one of like the famous singers in the Arab world. Why is that? Because it shows us how do we breed and eat these ideas and just grow in them. Yes, because listen, it is so, you can easily sell slogans to people. You can easily sell slogans to people. If I come and say, we call for social justice, social justice, all of you will follow me out. Social justice, and you don't know what is going to happen. If people are frustrated with the government and someone says, follow me, this government, down the government, down, what will happen? Everyone will just follow. They don't know what is after that. So what is after that? Suppose that I empty this chair. Who is going to fill it? Suppose that you empty a place. Unless you have a second stage plan, what you will be doing is just chaos. Unless you have a plan. Imagine one sister decided not to send her child to school anymore. Fine. Okay. But what alternative education are you going to provide? Right or wrong? It's not about like, I don't like this school, I'm not sending my children there anymore. But what education are you providing to your children? Or are you putting them in front of the television all the time? If you are going to homeschool them, and then you're prepared for that, you have studied, you read books, you have done some training, fine. I'll be the first one to support you. But you don't want your children to go to school and then stay at home? No one says that. No one of sense or understanding or deen will say that. And if someone says that to you, he doesn't want the best for you. So it shows us, how do we eat ideas? How do we eat slogans? And we live at a world that sells slogans so easily, so quickly. So in those moments, obviously Muslims love social justice. So they said, Islam is the religion of social justice. And most of the writings were about social justice. Social justice. Yes, but Islam has its own understanding of social justice. Social justice does not violate private ownership. That's important. There is like a balance. There is a balance. What happens is people take, and remember what we mentioned yesterday, A lot of people who are really cunning, they take one element of something and they make it so big. They make it so big. Someone tells you, some political groups tell you, Islam is the solution. You must have heard this. Islam is the solution. Well, I agree that Islam is the solution. But your understanding of Islam is not Islam. Right? You understand Islam. Your understanding of Islam is not sacred. It's your ijtihad in understanding Islam. And also when you tell me Islam is the solution, what do you mean by that? Give me practical things. Give me practical plans. Give me projects. Well, Islam is the solution for poverty. Well, Islam is the solution. We have a decayed sewage system. How are we going to replace that? Oh, Islam will replace it. Well, Islam told us to work hard, to have planning, and so on and so forth. You know, there was a group that appeared in Egypt in 1980s. They were people, unfortunately, they were like jihadis, very hardliners. But they had some funny ideas. They used to wear green and nothing but green. So green turban, green clothes, green trousers, green underwear. And if they have like children, seriously, the children would wear green. And they decided to boycott any modern invention. So no use for cars, no use for bicycles, nothing like that. They want to go to university? No, there is no university. It is an invention. So what do you do then? We ride camels. They decided then. So the government, and they basically said, we don't even have our names. So the government decided, these guys are causing so much trouble, we'll put them in prison. So they put them in prison, and then they were interrogating one of them. They refused to give their identity. Basically, so they hold the guy, and they say, what's your name? He says, Abdullah, the servant of Allah. They thought, this is your name. What is the name of your father? Abdullah. Where do you live? In the land of Allah. What do you eat? From Rizqullah. And then the officers got very angry. So they said, okay, نَضْرِبُكَ بِعَوْنِ اللَّهِ. We hit you by the power of Allah. And they started. That is a real group, Sayyidina. That's a real group. So their leader, this story is related by one of the Ikhwan who shared the prison with them. He said they put them in cells, and in order to force them to disclose their identities, they decided we're not giving them food until they tell who they are. So one of their leaders said to them, look, we have true trust and dependence on Allah. Allah will provide for us. They said, okay. 3 days, 4 days, they're dying. So some of the prisoners upstairs, they decided to tie a loaf of bread and send it down to them. So the guy, the leader, happened to be next to the door. So he would put his hand and bring it. Didn't I tell you? Allah will provide for us. Here you go. Rizqullah. Here you go. So you see, sometimes actually we eat these slogans, we swallow them. That was communism for some time. But then after some time, communism was not suitable anymore. So there was something called globalization. The world is now being an open village. Everyone knows everything. So there is globalization. Globalization is, Islam offers something called universalism. Universalism is the Islamic alternative for globalization. Universalism is to embrace the universe, to accept diversity. Globalization, this enzation means you are turning people into something. It's like Americanization, like privatization. All of this Asianization is turning someone else into a nation without any obligation. Right? You see, I can do some spoken word as well. Yeah, I just need to move my hands. Yeah. You can do that in animation.